Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Greetings to you based on your time zone, wherever you're joining from. A very significant topic in relation to drone technology today, and speaker is available here. But before I bring him to the stage, I need to do some proper briefing before we go into the main event, the lecture for today. Okay, so the topic we are going to be treating today is called risk assessment, human factor, drone codes, and safety management. And our speaker for today is Mr. Jagongo Obara. He's from Kenya. He's a Kenyan aviation safety expert. So, but before we go into this, so let me quickly give a briefing about Precision Field Academy, the organizer of the program. For those joining for the very first time. Okay, just give me a few seconds. I'm coming. Okay. So, Precision Field Academy is the organizer of the Precision Agriculture Incubation Program. And Precision Agriculture Incubation Program is a digital skill based training focusing on empowering young people, young professionals, young farmers, or young agriculture enthusiasts with digital technologies in respect to drones, satellite imagery, uh, GIS, robotics, and Internet of Things, and every other evolving technology within the agricultural landscape that they can actually harness to practice digital and precision agriculture. So let's get going. So, what is Precision Field Academy? What's the vision and the mission behind Precision Field Academy? At Precision Field Academy, we have a vision to create a world where every young person, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to become a digitally savvy farmer and agricultural professional, driving sustainable and equitable growth in their communities through the transformative power of technology. And our mission is to raise the next gen farmers that are tech inclined and digitally savvy. So at Precision Field Academy, we run it as a social enterprise where we train and build the capacity of young professionals in modern and emerging technologies for the future of work and also to lead with precision agriculture. So we have all three methodologies, which is number one, education and knowledge sharing. Number two is training and skill development. Number three is coaching and mentorship. And through first for sharing knowledge, bringing the right education to people. These are what facilitate programs like this to be able to train people on both technical skills, enterprise skills, theoretical skills that will make them to be relevant in the future of work, especially in the agriculture sector. And we have certain tech skills in focus. Number one is drone technology. So we are going to be looking into details like what potential, what benefits can we derive from harnessing drone technology and bringing it into agriculture as a concept of drones in agriculture. How can it be used to provide efficiency in the practice of agriculture? We also have GIS and remote sensing, talking about ArcGIS, QGIS, and other various softwares relation to geographical information system. When you want to get certain information about certain portion of land, I was talking about the geospatial coordinate, the land size, land value, and all of those informations are related to the use of GIS and collection of data in respect to remote sensing. We have data science in agriculture. It's talking about the collection and processing of data in respect to crop health. We talking about plant size. You want to know the canopy size. You want to know species identification, plant phenotyping, and various uh, deliverables in relation to crop. Yes, classified under data science because you'll be able to know the plant population stand count, the size of the canopy, how robust they are. You want to get the leaf index, nutrient efficiency, and all of these things are classified under data science in agriculture because we have various areas of data. And also we have robotics and Internet of Things. Robotics and Internet of Things strictly based on developing solutions that can actually work instead of a man. So where you have shortage of labor, you have intelligent devices that could cover up and take the place of man and get the work done faster and efficiently. So we have systems like attached to Internet of Things. They require using network or internet services, and these are systems that can work either to gather soil moisture level. You want to get information about soil moisture level, you want to trigger irrigation systems, or monitor your farm real time through digital solutions. So this is under robotics and Internet of Things. And also we have artificial intelligence and machine learning. So artificial intelligence and machine learning is a platform where we train people on how to create a lot of data sets that can help them to practice precision agriculture. I remember recently under Father Market Masterclass, we did something and we are trying to train a model. Um for this system, by the time the data is being collected on the field, you collect your data, taking the photographs and everything. You are going to integrate it into this model we are training to differentiate crop from the weed. So it's actually, and the crop we are trying to do in particular is cassava. So it's going to understand that this is a cassava and this is weed. So like just separating them from each other, the disparity between them. So it could be tailored under artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. And lastly, we have enterprise development. Enterprise development is for you to be able to build yourself, understanding both the business skill set, the technical skill set, the soft skill set that makes you to be globally relevant in the field of precision agriculture. And why do we do what we do? What's our motivation? Number one, we discovered there is a skill gap that needs to be closed, and young professionals need to build skills, especially youths, on both technical and enterprise skill for the future of working agriculture. Number two is that observing the trends is not enough. So you need to be directly involved. They need to become an enabler and a player in the fourth agricultural revolution and not just mere observer. Three is that technology is actually the power to unlock the African agricultural potential. So we can ride on the wing of technology to change the game of agricultural practice in the continent of Africa. So why should you join us? The reason why you should join us is that we are creating the future of one agriculture. We've visualized this future and we are building momentum, raising leaders, uh, building professionals, building capacity through workshops and symposium and training like this to be able to create this future we want. So and it's important you directly involve yourself in this. So join us. So also part of the reason why you need to join us is that we connect you to various opportunities, um, agricultural organizations around the world in terms of their scholarship opportunities, internship, and volunteership. This is usually announced in our community group at Christian Field Academy, where we advertise opportunities like this for participants to apply, which is going to really help in their career growth. And also, we have skill development and project collaboration through community interaction workshops and symposiums. We've been to different universities, and we are still going to be to different universities. Well, we're talking about drones and agriculture, precision agriculture programs and courses, building the capacity of youth, because this require a kind of mindset re-engineering, and this require us to train people, to expose them to this technology, and when we have a wide range acceptance, that is when what we are doing can make sense, and that is when we can build the capacity of changing the world of agriculture. And lastly, we give you access to coaching and mentorship from industry leaders and professionals. At Precision Field Academy, we are building a community of young tech inclined and digitally savvy farmers. So let me bring to the stage. Okay. All right. Okay. So today we are going to be discussing in details about risk assessment, human factor, and drone codes and safety management. And we have a seasoned expert in the house who is going to be making justice to this topic today. He has proven track records. So let me quickly read through his profile as I bring him up to the stage. Okay, Mr. Jagongo Obara is a drone tech professional. And okay, he's an aviation consultant at the Jagongo Obara Aviation Consultants in Kenya. He's also the former quality safety manager at Ken Drones, with a keen focus on enhancing safety and quality within aviation operations. Jagongo Obara Consultants aims to support clients in establishing and sustaining effective safety and quality assurance programs. So through this program, these programs are designed to provide operational control, quality assurance, safety adherence in accordance with the relevant Civil Aviation Authority regulations and laws. So Jagongo Bar is committed to driving innovation in drone technology, utilizing among youth populations in East Africa. By empowering these communities through technological advancement, he envisioned fostering positive socio-economic development within these regions. So, Mr. Obara, you're welcome to the stage, sir. If you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you fantastically,
Okay.
Joseph.
I believe you can hear me, sir. So let me add this to the stage now.
Yes, I do hear you. Will you be moving the slides on my behalf, or do I have, or can I do the presentation from my side?
Okay, yes, you can do the presentation from your side. I think you can change the slide from your end.
Okay, let me just load it. While I'm doing that, thank you so much for that introduction, Joseph. And I also would like to
You're
give.
welcome, sir.
I would also like to appreciate Precision Field Academy also for giving me this time, and as well as to congratulate cohort 2.0 for joining this training. 1.0 was very successful, and it's a pleasure to have this session going on again, and we look forward to 3.0 and 4.0, and basically just making sure that every youth in Africa has the ability or the potential to be a farmer, and not everybody wants to be in the offices and working and wearing a suit and tie. Some of us want to fly drones, but we want to fly drones in a matter that is fun and that is productive, and also helping our generation. So today we are going to be talking about human factors, and also drone safety and risk management. So we all want to. It's fun flying the drones. It's fun being a pilot, but then we also know that aviation safety is the number one factor that is being considered. And so, how are we being safe in the operations that we're conducting, and how are we being safe to the clients that we are also providing these services to? So let's dive into it, and yeah, just let me pull up my slide in the meanwhile, so that we can all be on the same page. Just a minute. Hello, Joseph. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. You can do how to upload your slide from your hand so that you can have an easy control over it.
Yes. That is what is happening. Just confirm that you can also see what I am seeing.
I don't know if I bring it up, if you'll be able to control it over there. You can do how to scroll. Let me see if you can.
Yes, I think I have it.
You're fine. All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much for that, Joseph. So yes, let's. All right, great. There we are. So, ladies and gentlemen from all over Africa, thank you once again for being part of this cohort 2.0. It's a real pleasure to give this this seminar or this lecture to these inspiring aviators and agricultural entrepreneurs. I'm calling you guys agricultural entrepreneurs because the belief and the hope is that by the time we finish and conclude with this session and this cohort, that each and every one of you will be able to at least have a skill that you can go back to in your villages, in your farms, in your communities, and make something useful out of the time that we have spent here. It's a jam-packed session full of a lot of information. Most of these information that we're receiving, you're probably hearing them for the first time. And so we also want to encourage you that put some notes aside. If you might have some questions at the end of this episode or later on when you do your own research, we are always available as well to guide and assist you. So what we are going to be discussing today is generally 4 key elements that involve drone safety and human factors. So the first one will be, what are the human factors and their relationship to unmanned aviation? So when we are talking about unmanned aviation, we are referring to the ARPA systems or the drone, which does not have a pilot sitting in it. But since you are flying remotely, we also want to know, or you need to understand, what can your body do, the biology, and how it affects you as a pilot. And the second element that we'll be looking at is we want to consider these drone operations and the crew management. Generally, in most scenarios, you do not go out into the field, especially for agricultural operations. You do not go out into the field solo or alone, as much as it requires one pilot to fly the aircraft. You find that you need somebody on the ground probably to be observing the weather. You need another person on the ground as well to be applying for permits and all this logistics to make it happen. So we usually work as a team, and so crew management is very critical to drone operations, so that people know exactly what their roles are, and so that there's no conflict of interest in as the operations are going on. And the third bit, which is also very critical, is compliance to drone codes and the regulations. We do not fly in a vacuum. We are highly regulated as aviators, and drone operations is no exception to this. So we normally might want to give the client all the nice pictures that they want to do, but all these nice things that we want to give the client and the farmer uh, is based on some certain criterias. And it's usually going to be the Nigerian CA that is issuing these regulations. In this case, or in my case, it's the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority or Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, where I'm currently operating from here in Uganda, that guide us on what to do. And usually guiding us on what to do refers to air law, basically. Then the fourth element that we'll be looking at is how to conduct an effective risk assessment and how to manage these risks. Because doing a risk assessment and saying that, okay, we're going to fly high, we're going to avoid these trees, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, that is all well and good. But how do we manage it? How do we ensure that we are maintaining a safe operation from start to end? So now, having given that introduction, let's look into what these human factors are. So we all know that due to the fact that humans, in this case, the remote pilot, has ultimate responsibility for flying the drone. So we need to be aware of the limitations that me as a pilot can endure before, during, and after flying. Because how I am able to fly before is not how I'll be able to fly in the next 1 hour, and is also not how I'll be able to fly in the next 2 hours. So it's a continuous process that we need to consider. And remote pilots need to be aware of the following limitations. And this is summarized in these elements: I am safe. So we are going to be considering this as a checklist, and this is a personal checklist that we do on ourselves as pilots, and in regards to the entire team as well that are operating, just to ensure that everybody is safe. So when we talk about, am I safe as a pilot? Are you safe as an observer? Is another gentleman safe as the weather operator? So all these gentlemen and ladies who are going to be performing the operation, they need to have some self-evaluation. So this can either be done from team member to team member, or individually as a sole person, because we know each other, we know ourselves better. So when we are talking about the I am safe, we are looking at number one, illness. So the I for I am safe stands for illness. So is there any medical conditions that needs to be considered? So for me personally, I have hypertension or high blood pressure. And so I am aware about that illness that that I am going through. I don't know if it's an illness, but it's a condition. So I need to know what my parameters are that will enable me to perform a safe operation. Somebody else could be suffering from a different illness. It doesn't matter, but that does not stop you from flying. It just means that we need to be aware that we are 100% today and we can perform the activities that we need to do. And as a rule of thumb, do not fly if not feeling well or in doubt of your ability to perform at 100%. If you know that today I'm having a bad day, I have a headache, this is not going to happen. Ultimately, remember what we said previously, you as the pilot in command, you are ultimately responsible for operations of the aircraft. So if you do not feel well, speak out and postpone the flight, cancel it. There are several other factors that you still have control over that will ensure that you are flying safely. And so we are moving on to the next one. I is for illness. M is for medication. If you taking any medication, any drugs that might interfere with your ability to fly, or are the medication or the drugs that you're taking allowing you or okay to operate with? Not every drug or every medication is harmful to a pilot. If you are having a headache, for instance, and you want to use Panadol, for instance, there is nothing wrong with using Panadol and just to relieve your headache and or just to keep you in optimum position. But what we need to consider as well is that the aviation medical is also a secondary requirement. As much as we might be feeling 100% and we're good to fly, we also need to bear in mind that as commercial pilots, and when we refer to commercial pilots, we are talking about drone operators who are being paid for the service. So there's a farmer in a certain location or a certain county that wants his agricultural field mapped, or he wants his crop surveyed. If he is paying you for that service as a drone pilot, then automatically by the regulations, you will require a medical certificate. And these medical certificates are usually issued by aviation medical examiners, the AMEs. So these aviation medical examiners, they are specialized in determining Clifford has this condition. How is this condition affecting him as a pilot, and is he fit to fly as a pilot? So you will get a medical certificate which resembles this, and you co-sign it. It is stamped, and it is recognized by all civil aviation regulations. So this requirement is only specific to commercial pilots. If you are flying on your own farm, for instance, you have your own farm, you have your own drone, you might not be eligible to, or rather you might not be required to obtain a medical certificate. Or for instance, if you have your agricultural drone and you want to just demonstrate how it works, then also this does not apply to you. It only applies in the conditions that you are receiving revenue from the services that you're offering. So as a rule of thumb, always consult your aviation doctor when medication is required. So what this means is, why are we consulting these aviation medical examiners? Is because, for instance, if I have a condition or I have a flu and I want to take some medication to relieve the bad feelings that I have, it's always highly, highly, highly recommended, especially if you are a commercial pilot, that you do not ingest any medication as much as it might be safe or it might be allowed. Just always contact your doctor, your aviation doctor, not your general doctor, not your family doctor. This is specific to that aviation doctor. So look for this aviation doctor wherever you are. Nigeria has got a lot of aviation doctors that specialized in this area. Kenya does as well as everywhere else in Africa. So just reach out to them, and they will guide you. They will tell you, all right, these medications are okay for you. Go ahead and take them in certain doses. You can fly. Or these certain medications are a no-go. If you have to take them, restrict your flying for a day or 2 days. They will guide you based on their sound judgment. So moving on swiftly, S is now stress. We want to consider if you are in the right frame of mind to carry out the job. Obviously, if you're stressed out and something is bothering you, you might not be in the right frame of mind to do whatever mapping or whatever agricultural applications that you want to carry out for the day. So is there work or boss issues that might be affecting your ability to also focus on the task in hand? That might also be an issue that will result in or might increase your stress levels or might reduce your stress levels. The point is to reduce them and not increase them. If you have an issue that is coming up, typical environment for us Africans is usually stressful. For me, for instance, if I'm a drone pilot and I probably have siblings that are looking out for me, I probably have extended family members that are also looking out for me. And so I want to get this job done so that I can meet 1, 2, 3 obligations. Now, that meeting 1, 2, 3 obligations is a stress factor on its own. So we want to make sure that as much as we are doing the job or as much as we are helping farmers or flying our agricultural drones, we want to make sure that whatever scenario we are involving in is not risky and is not imposing unnecessary stress on us as drone operators. And this cuts across whether you are the operator flying or whether you're the dispatcher or the observer or the project management. All these roles in the drone world, you either want to ensure that we have minimum stress as possible, or if we are stressed as to a higher limit, then we now have that information to say that, okay, this situation has now reached maximum. This operation cannot carry on, or let's postpone it to tomorrow, or let's do it in another day. So ultimately, it goes back to what we had talked about. The responsibility is up to you. So if you feel that you're not comfortable to do it, by all means, you are allowed to cancel the mission or the job that you're doing. And moving on to the I am safe. Now we are at the A. Now this is where we're looking into alcohol. There's nothing stopping you as a pilot to consume alcohol and fly. The only limitation is by law, and most of this presentation is going to be focused on regulations. And as much as we're talking about human performance right now, there are certain things that we can and cannot do legally. So as much as your doctor might tell you, all right, Cliff, you're okay, you've had a few drinks, you're good to fly, and you can only fly after 8 hours. Legally, on the law side, they'll say, all right, fine, you can fly, but there is a limit of 8 hours from the last time you had your last drink to when you need to be on the controls flying. And this 8-hour rule is because scientists and doctors have figured out that, hey, it will take approximately 6 to 9 hours for the toxins to eliminate your system. And so that is why they've put it at the 8-hour rules. But why we are having this human factor session is because not everybody is standard. It might take me, for instance, 8 hours to exit the toxins of the alcohol from my system, but it might take somebody else 20 hours, or somebody else, it might take them 2 hours. So it depends. That this is why this human factors is usually individualized per person, and it cannot be a general rule of thumb that This issue will stress you. This issue will not stress you. What will stress me will not stress the individual. How long it takes me to exit toxins from my system will not be the same to the other person, and so on and so forth. But as a rule of thumb, law-wise, 8 hours is the threshold that we are working with. And moving on to the next I am safe checklist is fatigue. So we are aware that most African agricultural fields that we shall be flying in are not happening in the city or close to civilization. And thus, the time taken to commute from your home or from your office to the field where you're going to be mapping or flying at is generally going to be approximately nothing less than 2 hours or a 3-hour drive away. So we need to be aware 10% of drone's pilot time is spent flying, and the rest 90% is spent on data processing. So what this means is if you go to a farm and you're flying a drone and you're mapping the crops and you're doing all the nice things that the client wants you to do, that will usually form about only 10% of the time of your time as a pilot. 90% of the rest of your work as a pilot will be spent on processing this data. You want to tell the farmer how good is his crop looking? Is it green? Is it nice? Is it ripe? Is it growing the way he expects it? That does not happen instantly. It is not just like putting coffee in a cup and you're sipping it the next minute. It takes a lot of time to download this data. You're processing these images. You're giving color to it. You're color coding things. You're trying to figure it out in a way that it's not so complicated and you can break it down in 2 minutes to the farmer. And so that is why we are spending 90% of our time processing data. So fatigue is a real risk or a real hazard to drone operations. You remember you've spent time traveling to get to the location. You have spent 10% of your time as well flying the drone, and then you still want to spend 90% of your time processing this data, and then you want to spend another time explaining it to the farmer, and then now you want to head back to HQ, and probably you also have other additional data that you might want to give to your superiors or to the Civil Aviation Authority, and so on and so forth. So fatigue is a real risk. And as I said, again, there are some people who can work 24 hours a day. They can fly during the day, they can process data overnight. Tomorrow, they're with the farmer. The next day, they're with CAA. The other day, they're done. And on the fourth day, they're moving on to the next client. It also varies from pilot to pilot. I, for instance, might do one job and I'm so exhausted, I don't want to see another client for the next 1 week. It just depends from pilot to pilot on what you can handle as a person. So let's jump on to now the next one, which is now eating. So again, nourishment with the body. The body does not operate on batteries like our drones. Our body operates on the food that we eat. So it also depends. You do not want to take the wrong drone battery to the field, or you do not want to take a battery that is 10% charged. You want to take a battery that is 100% charged so that you can maximize its lifespan. So again, just the same way your drone is going to fly 100% on a good battery, you, the pilot, will also fly 100% on a well-nourished body. So just make sure that you also put your personal battery levels at 100%. And we all know that fatigue kicks in. You've traveled from point A to point B, and you get there and you're having a briefing session with your crew, and you're having a briefing session with the farmer, and there's so much happening. You might end up doing the operation and you've spent a whole day and you've not had anything to bite. And this will affect you as a human being, just the same way a drained battery will affect the drone. So just as a rule of thumb, carry some snacks with you. Eat small, eat light, eat when you can. It's not always that you will have time to have a lunch break and you have this nice 1 hour gap and you're eating your fufu and your egusi soup and all those nice things that you want. It might not always happen that way. So if you can do something small to bite, just be aware as an individual that, hey, Clifford, you have not had anything to bite. If there's a gap, maybe the drone is flying autonomously, use that 2 minutes to chew on something. It doesn't hurt to bite something while on the field as well. And there we go. So that does our I am safe checklist. And that also concludes human factors and what we need to look out for biologically or that will affect you as a drone pilot. So now you have gone through the I am safe checklist, and you're not ill, you're not under any medication, you're not stressed, you have not consumed any alcohol within the past 8 hours, you have eaten something, you are full of power and you're full of energy, and that is something that you've done personally and you have assured yourself or you have assured your other crew members that they are safe. Now we need to get into the drone operations and let's start doing what brought you to the field to do, or what brought you where you are as a drone pilot to achieve your aim. And first and foremost, always keep the drone in direct sight and make sure that you have full view of the surrounding airspace. You must also be sure that you are able to spot any hazards, and these hazards could either be in the air or in the ground. And the reason why we're looking out for these hazards is so that we avoid collision. You do not want to collide your aircraft with trees. You do not want to collide your aircraft with the people around. You do not want to collide your aircraft with other aircraft. You want to make sure that your drone is flying and it is doing all the nice things that it needs to do and coming back and landing safely. So visual line of sight is paramount and the bare minimum for any drone operation. There are some operations which might require the drone to fly farther away from you. That can also be mitigated by having a spotter standing on the other side where the drone will be and keeping a lookout on your behalf and communicating with you and looking out for the hazards on your behalf as a pilot. So you as a pilot might have ultimate control, but you can delegate some of the lookout and the spotting to a ground observer, which is a distance away. Because not every farm is going to be within eyesight. You might be spraying a farm that has 10 hectares of tea or 10 hectares of eucalyptus. So this is not a distance that you can also look at, but for safety reasons, and this is why we're talking about drone management and drone safety, is we need to be aware that, all right, my eyesight is limited to X distance. I need somebody else at distance X to also increase visibility of the aircraft. So anything that you're seeing in this picture that is in red, you do not want the drone in that section. You always want to keep the aircraft within reach where you can observe it. And this does not matter, whether it is behind a tree, whether it is behind a building, whether it is behind so and so. Do not keep the drone in any, do not make sure that the drone is never in a situation that it is beyond your visual line of sight, or that you can not see where it is or what it's doing. And so what are we considering when we're doing these drone operations? We're looking at three things. So first of all is the crew. And the second one is the aircraft. And the third one is the flight space. the drone is not flying itself. Somebody is flying it and somebody is monitoring it. The aircraft also needs to be considered. Is it well maintained? Is it up to scratch? And also the flight space. Are we approved to fly? Are we in the right place to fly? And things like that. So when we look at the crew, this function usually will fall down on the project manager. So the project manager knows I have one pilot called Clifford, and I have another standby pilot called Joseph, and we have one observer called Mary, and we have the CA representative called John, and so on and so forth. So the project manager will have a bird's eye view of everything that needs to be done and will generally coordinate who does this, who does what, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that. If there's an emergency, what do we do as a team? If there's a risk, how do we respond to it? How do we react to it? So that there is cohesion and people are not panicking and doing their own things. I might be a pilot and I want to fly the way I want to fly, but that is not the way the project manager wants me to fly. So it's about guidance and mentorship and just having leadership for the whole project. On the aircraft side, it is also very paramount to always ensure that the aircraft is well maintained, has the latest firmware, and everything is updated, and we are using the correct apps for the application. We're using the correct payloads for the aircraft. You do not want to, for instance, be putting you've gone to a farm and you've taken the wrong aircraft, but now because the farmer wants his crop fertilized, now you are trying to put a payload onto a different aircraft, or you've gone to a wedding and this happens a lot. You find that the couple wants the wedding ring delivered and flown by a drone and dropped to the couple. These drones were not designed to carry such kind of payloads. I know as pilots we get excited and we want to give the clients value for their money, and we want to razzle and dazzle them, but matching the payload with the correct aircraft specifications is very paramount. And once again, this is not only going down to safety of the operation, but it's also going down to the regulations. Are you allowed to do that? As much as you can do it, are you allowed to? And most of the cases, you will find that maybe you are not allowed to, or if you are allowed to, there are certain conditions that you have to meet, or certain requirements that you have to meet, or certain approvals that you have to seek before you do all the nice things that you want to do. So the flight space, which is the third consideration, is to ensure that the area that you are flying in or operating in is approved, and that all air and ground hazards have been considered and they have been mitigated. And when we say have been mitigated, we mean that any hazard that might be available. Right now, let me give you an example. In Uganda, there's an excess, for some strange reason, there's an excess of crows. And crows might not necessarily be a hazard, but we need to be aware that these are also intelligent animals. A crow might consider your drone as a threat or as a bigger bird that is invading in its territory. And so it might instinctively want to attack your aircraft or your drone. So if we are aware that we have crows that are flying for whatever reason, we don't want to interfere with them, the good manners does not mean that we shoo them away or that we scare them away, because we are generally interfering in their airspace. They are not interfering in our airspace. It's us who are interfering with them. So we also need to be aware that let the birds do whatever they need to do, the hawks, any creature that might be in the air, let them do whatever they need to do. Let's just be aware that, hey, how are we going to mitigate this? All right, I'm going to have Mr. Joseph behind me, and he is going to be looking out in the sky for this bird. So if he sees anything that is dangerous, he can alert me, and I can always descend the aircraft for safety purposes, or we can land and wait for the airspace to clear. It could also be an instance that there's a helicopter flying across, or there's an aircraft flying across. We also want to have somebody looking up, or if you hear anything, you also want to turn around into the direction of where the noise is coming from. Is it safe? Are we clear? Do I need to descend? What actions do I need to do? And that is what mitigating all these factors refers to. And now let's be more specific on the drone codes and on regulations. Generally, these regulations are issued by the Civil Aviation Authority. So if you are flying in Nigeria, it is going to be the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority that determines what codes you need to comply with and what regulations you need to comply with. So for me, as an instructor, I might not necessarily be engaged in drone operations, but as an instructor, I also cannot teach the way I want to teach. I cannot teach randomly. I cannot just wake up and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Or as a flight school, Precision Field Academy cannot also wake up one day and say, hey, we are Precision Field Academy. We want to do 1, 2, 3, and all these nice things. There are certain standards that we comply with. I, as an instructor, have to comply with certain standards. Precision Field Academy, as a training organization, also needs to comply with certain standards. And as much as we are complying with these standards also being applicable to you, the student. So let's have a look at what these regulations and what these standards are, and what they mean for us, and what we can do and what we cannot do. So first and foremost, this is, I think, the most basic and common regulation discussed across pretty much no matter where you're flying. If you're flying in Kenya, if you're flying in South Africa, if you're flying in Australia, generally the rule of thumb is our maximum flight height as drone pilots is 400 feet or 120 meters. The reason why we fly at a maximum ceiling of 400 feet or 120 meters is because aircrafts, what we call them as manned aircrafts, they are not allowed to fly below 500 feet. So if they are not allowed to fly below 500 feet and we are not allowed to fly above 400 feet, we have that 100 feet gap. And what that does is it gives leeway if we should go above a bit, or if the manned aircraft should go down a bit, we have that safe margin to operate with. And so this depends. If you are on a flat surface, 400 feet will be at a certain limit. If you are at a hill, then 400 feet will also be at a certain limit. So always, and also it never happens, or I've never personally as an instructor come across a situation or a scenario where the aircraft has to fly above 400 feet. It usually just looks cool to get those high altitude aerial photos, but practically, other than that, in agricultural applications, we will never get to 400 feet because we are not spraying anything at 400 feet. We are not planting any seeds at 400 feet. We are usually flying 10 feet plus or minus. So just as a limit, this is our legal limit. And as I said, this usually will cut across most regulations in Africa and across the world. And also, what do we want to do as well? We know that we might be flying in a vicinity where we have farmers, we have onlookers, we have spectators, we have curious people from the village and the community who also want to have a look at, hey, what is Joseph doing with his drone? What is Clifford doing in this area? And so we want to keep a distance between our aircrafts, 50 meters from where your aircraft is to anybody that is not involved with what operation you are doing. And so this does not apply to, say, for instance, your observer. It does not apply to the project manager. It does not apply to the CA representative who's on the ground. It probably might not even apply to people who are involved in the operations of that day. This 50-meter radius only applies to individuals who have nothing whatsoever to do with the mapping or to do with the operations of the day. So what do we do? How do we keep this? And this is why I said, as a pilot, you might be in control flying, but you generally might not be in a position where you can do crowd control. So you probably might want to also delegate somebody to manage crowd control. Maybe this can happen by putting a barricade wire around where the operations are going to be, or somebody just physically just telling guys, hey, you know what? Step back. This is your limit. You cannot come closer than this. So it just depends on the nature of the vicinity where you are. If the crowd is rowdy, you might even want to go a step further and hire security or the local police or things like that. So just make sure that 50 meters minimum, that's the radius. And also, we do not, in the same breath, we do not want to fly overcrowded people. So a crowd is any group of people who cannot move away quickly because of the number of people around them. So never fly over people who are crowded together, no matter what size of drone or model aircraft you have. The thing is, for safety reasons, if your aircraft was to malfunction for whatever reason, we do not want this aircraft malfunctioning and drifting and slamming into people. We want to avoid that scenario happening as much as possible. So if, for instance, I am Clifford, the instructor, and I have 20 students from Precision Field Academy, I want to make sure that the drone at no point will fly overhead my students. So the students can be parked in one section. If it is a demonstration you're giving to farmers or to agriculturists, you also want to make sure that these farmers are also grouped in one section, so that we are flying in a different section and they can observe from a safe distance. Also, we want to, as much as possible, stay away from airports, airfield, or spaceports and aircraft. And this is not only limited to staying away from aerodromes. This rule also applies to critical infrastructure. We do not want to fly in the vicinity of State House. We do not want to fly in the vicinity of the governor's office. We do not want to fly in the vicinity of a prison complex or a police station. There are certain, or a military barracks. These are certain areas that have been demarcated for security reasons and also for safety reasons. It is very easy for us to maneuver our small aircrafts away from an airport, but it is not easy for a passenger aircraft, for instance, carrying 200 passengers to see us. In most cases, passenger aircrafts will not notice our small drones. So it is incumbent on us as remote pilots to look out for these infrastructures, and if we can stay away from them, that is what is preferred. If we cannot stay away from them, either we need to seek permission to fly in that area if it is an airport. For instance, you could be mapping how much wildlife we have in a certain airport. Is airport can give you that leeway to fly in their aerodrome. They will just issue probably certain conditions. Maybe do it from this hour to this hour, or you can only do it at this time, or they will tell other aircrafts to stay away. So there's that coordination and planning, and everything is happening safely. And so we also want to carry out the following. Make sure you know what your drone can and cannot do. Do not fly an agricultural drone to go and take pictures, or to go and take videos of your farm. The agricultural drone was meant to spray, it was meant to fertilize, it was meant to do certain conditions. So understand the capabilities of your aircraft. And also, number two, make sure that your drone is fit to fly. Do not fly your aircraft which is faulty, which has outdated software, which is not fit to fly, which probably has a broken propeller or a broken landing gear, or the antenna is cracked. Just make sure your drone is fit to fly. And fit to fly means your drone is airworthy. And everything in aviation has to be airworthy. The third one is never drop or lower anything or fire from your drone while it is flying. Now, when we talk about never drop or lower anything, this goes back to what I was talking about. If you are doing a function and the couple has asked you to take for them a wedding ring, usually that is not allowed under any regulations whatsoever, but can be done if you request permission for it. And this permission will generally come from the Civil Aviation Authority. They will tell you, all right, fine, go ahead and do it, or don't do it, or do it under these criteria. But this does not apply to our seeds. It does not apply to our fertilizers. These agricultural drones were designed to jettison fertilizer. They were designed to release seeds. They were designed to do all these nice things from the air and dropping them to the ground. So this rule does not apply to agricultural drones. It only applies to other drones or aircraft which were not designed to release or drop anything. And never carry any dangerous cargo on your drone. Dangerous cargo means an explosive. Dangerous cargo could be TNT, dangerous. It could be even the normal household jig. The reason why we do not want to do it is, again, safety is paramount in everything aviation. Safety is paramount in everything drone related. We also want to make sure that the drone equipment is secure. The batteries have been latched and sealed properly. The fertilizer cap has been tightly locked. There's nothing loose that is going to shake. There is nothing going to fall off. We just want to make sure that this aircraft is in a solid state, that it can take off, do whatever it needs to do, come back, and land safely. And do not fly if the weather could affect your flight. So, for instance, weather could be rain, and we know that most of these aircrafts have a limited ingress protection. Ingress protection is the IP rating of the drone. There are some IP ratings which are high. There are some certain IP ratings which are low. So it just depends on the manufacturer specifications and what your drone can do. And these ingress protection or IP ratings refer to two things. So one is how much water or rain it can absorb and not short circuit or affect the aircraft. And the second consideration is also how much dust it can absorb and not cause significant damage. So we all know that when our motors are spinning and our propellers are spinning, we are gathering all this dust from the ground. And so the higher the IP rating, the more dust it can handle without being affected. The lower, so we also need to, as it goes back to the first note, make sure you know what your drone can do and what it cannot do. And also make sure that you can clearly see your drone when you're out flying. This is visual line of sight, as we mentioned earlier. We need to be in direct contact with our aircraft. If we cannot maintain direct contact with the aircraft, have a spotter or somebody standing by that has that direct contact with your aircraft. Take action quickly and safely if the situation in the air or on the ground changes. Should you notice any significant issues, there's an aircraft flying towards us, or there's some certain birds which are hovering overhead us, or there's some ground animals that are coming towards us, we need to be in a position where we can either hit the return to home button, or we can land, or we can hover, or we can take certain evasive maneuvers. And we do not want to be in a position where we are thinking, what do we do? Should we? No, we need to be in a position where you can spot the threat, spot the hazard, know how to react, and execute that in the shortest time possible. Report any dangerous incidents, near misses, or suspicious activity if you have witnessed or you're involved in any serious incident. Now, this is necessary because the civil aviation authorities usually do not use this data to punish you. So, for instance, in my case, if I am a flight instructor and the aircraft crashes or malfunctions with a student for one reason or the other, the civil aviation might want to know, okay, is this a problem with the aircraft? Is this a problem with me, the instructor? Or was it a problem with the aircraft? They want to understand how did this incident happen, and so that they can either use that information to guide you on how to avoid it in the next flight, or they can use this information as well to guide other pilots around and notify them that, hey, this incident happened with Clifford, and probably it is a faulty aircraft. Do not use this aircraft, or if you're using this aircraft, take certain precautions. So it is not always that when we report issues of incidents and accidents or any issue to the Civil Aviation Authority that we are, as we can call, snitching on ourselves, or that we are snitching on somebody else. This information is usually just being given for safety purposes, so that the airspace can be safe, pilots can be safe, aircrafts can be safe. And again, make sure that you have appropriate insurance. If the aircraft malfunctions for a certain reason, you do not want to be left as a pilot with no aircraft to fly. You need to be able to have insurance cover so that if your propeller is broken, it can be fixed, replaced. Tomorrow, you're back with your clients. These aircraft components are usually not the cheapest things to acquire. Drones, especially agricultural drones, are not the cheapest things to acquire. They're also not the cheapest things to operate. So we do not want to be in a position where all this expense that we are spending goes wrong or is lost just because the drone crashed into a tree, or because the drone malfunctioned, or for one reason or another. Insurance comes in handy, and generally this is a regulatory requirement, and the regulator, on the bare minimum, will require you to have third-party insurance. So third-party insurance means that you might not be compensated for your aircraft, but if you bump into my head, my medical bills will be paid. If you slam into the wall, the building will be replaced, or the owner of the building will be compensated, and so on and so forth. But if you can manage to get yourself comprehensive insurance, just the same way vehicles have third-party insurance and vehicles also have comprehensive, the same logic applies with drones. It's nothing special, it's nothing different. And also privacy. Don't fly your aircraft into somebody's field. If you're mapping your farm, keep that operation within your farm radius. Do not engage into other people's farms. Do not, for privacy reasons. This is also a legal reason. The consequences can be severe in certain jurisdictions, in certain countries. In certain areas, probably you can fly into your neighbor's farm and nothing will happen. But just as a rule of thumb, keep your scope of operation in your certain box where you are approved to operate from. And if we have to fly over tall structures for whatever reason, we have mentioned that 400 feet or 120 meters is our maximum. But now, what happens in a scenario whereby we might have a structure, a building, a tree, a wind tunnel, a wind mast, whatever it could be? The rule of thumb is let's keep 50 meters between the aircraft and that structure itself, and we are allowed to fly 15 meters above so that we can easily get over that obstacle. And this is the only reason where you will be allowed, or you will find yourself in a scenario where you're flying above the 400 meters. In other instances, you cannot even see the drone at 400 meters. So you have no reason whatsoever to be at 400 or 120 meters. But should you encounter an obstacle, then you are allowed to go above it, but only by 15 meters, which automatically should clear any obstacles which is in your area. So the risk assessment matrix is usually used once we have figured out all these hazards. We know that there's birds, we know that there's a wind mast, we know that there's all these structures, we know that there's this, there's that, there's people involved. How do we evaluate what is risky, what is not risky, what is safe, what is not safe? And how we do that is also not by magic. This is done by using the risk matrix. So the risk matrix is divided into two sections. You have the probability of something happening and the severity of that happening. So if we have crows in the air, what is the probability of these crows attacking our aircraft? Or what is the probability of our aircraft bumping into these crows? So you'll rate that from a scale of either 1 to 5, which is 1 is very unlikely. There's no point we're going to hit the crows. Or number 5 is very likely and we can bump into them at any time. So that is the information you want to use. If it is very likely, so what do? Do we fly low? Do we cancel the flight? Do we fly in a different section? Do we do this? You are just gauging what the probability of it happening. And then again, the severity of it. So if we do, for instance, crash into these crows or into these birds or into these hawks, what is the severity of that damage? Are we going to lose our aircraft? Is the aircraft going to burn up in flames? Is the aircraft going to crash down and affect people on the ground? Are we going to affect the local species, the local wildlife of the event? We could probably be in a situation where these birds are rare and they're endangered species, and if we crash into one of them, then we are not only affecting the aircraft, but we're affecting a species as a whole. So the risk assessment matrix is usually categorized from a scale of 1 to 5, and on the basis of the probability of that incident happening, and should it happen, what is the severity of it? Or if there's no, then we need to reduce that to acceptable limits. If it's too high, then we can say, okay, this risk is too much. Let's cancel the flight. We are not able to reduce it. We're not able to mitigate it. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's just cancel the whole thing. So this also gives you a guidance as a project manager or as a pilot in command to also gauge and assess, not based on guesswork or what you think is right, but based on a scientific formula that you can demonstrate to the client and tell them, hey, based on our risk assessment, we are postponing or we're canceling the flight based on 1, 2, 3. Or we request to reschedule the flight based on 1, 2, 3. Or we request to do certain mitigating factors based on 1, 2, 3. And this will lead you to a scenario where we call go or no go. And as you can see from that illustration, this is from my is the weather. And generally, if you are being lazy like me, you probably want to have a look at your weather app, and it will just tell you good to fly or not good to fly. So this is just one of the things that will inform you as a pilot or as a project manager. Is this flight good to go, or is it not good to go? Now, this example is just based on weather, but go or no go decisions can be based on numerous factors. It could be based on numerous events. It could be probably we have not received authorization from the Civil Aviation Authority, so that is a no-go. It could be maybe the pilot is not feeling well. The safe checklist, maybe there's stress or there's a certain factor, that is a no-go. So there are certain scenarios which could affect your chances of flying or not flying. And based on that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your time. I'd like to thank Precision Field Academy. I would like to give appreciation to the students for your time and for listening. As I said, human factors, risk assessment, these are not generic terms. They're not generic events that you can look at. Human factors vary from person to person. The risk assessment also varies from operation to operation. You cannot use the same risk assessment twice. Scenarios change. And so it's very dynamic, it's very fluid. And one of the privileges that we are offering cohort 2.0 is that we will guide you, we will mentor you in the course of your training and in the course of your subsequent operations, so that should you come across anything that is challenging, any scenario that you might feel that you need assistance on, then we can always guide and say, okay, for this project that you want to carry on, probably look into areas 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. And so with that, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you. And Joseph, thank you so much as well for giving me this opportunity. If there's any burning issue or burning question, we can tackle it. And as I said, probably a question might come later on. We'll also have room for further discussion in the future. So thank you, Joseph.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jagongo Obara. This was really a profound and insightful session, sharing about your experience, about the reality of what is happening in the flight world, how it's supposed to be done, following procedures, and also putting into consideration the life of species or wildlife conservation, and also people around when it comes to spraying operation and putting all these things. I mean, like we could call it the weighing your pros and cons for operation. So, and I think if people really want to do operations, they really need to follow guidelines and procedures to avoid mortality, accidents, because all of these things are what results into stringent policies from Civil Aviation Authority when someone actually mess up. And we really need to be in charge by ensuring that we prevent negative occurrences during flight operations as much as possible. So I quickly want to check if we have questions from our participants, so I can bring that on board. Okay, we don't really have question here. So people are just giving. She said, "What an awesome time with you, sir."
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. I think she really enjoyed the class and she's glad to be here. She's just giving encomium. So thank you very much, sir. We are really glad for you joining us again in this second edition. We've done the Precision Agriculture Incubation Program Cohort 1, and this is Cohort 2, and I believe subsequently we're still going to do other versions of it in the near future.
Yes.
Your contribution to this program has really been instrumental. Thank you so much for joining us, and this is a very profound section. I believe that subsequently you'll be able to join us. So before you go, I don't know if you have any parting word you want to give to participants in the absence of questions, because we don't have questions now to entertain, but you can do well to maybe give your word of encouragement or share certain information with them outside the presentation you've done for aspiring drone pilots. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Joseph. Just as a summary to wind up, I'm sure questions are going to come in the future. But for cohort 2.0, and this is a very special time for the students. It's a very privilege for them to have this advice and this mentorship going on. And so I just want to inform them that this is also not a conversation that is going to start and stop today, but we are also with you. We are going to hold your hands and walk with you through this journey. Drone operations is a skill that we learn, and it is also something that we perfect as we progress. So further to this course is going to give you the information and the knowledge you need. But as we are developing these skills in agriculture, there are different applications, there's different uses. Just keep on growing, keep on learning, keep on researching, keep on listening to future. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for that, Joseph. Looking forward to if I think my contacts, my email will be available. If there's any burning questions that the students might have in the future, we are always available for them.
All right, all right. We'll do well to reach out to you, sir. Thank you so much for coming. It's really a pleasure having you. All right, to all our participants, we've gradually come to the end of this section. Risk assessment, human factor, drone codes, and safety management. And it was well attended to by aviation safety expert in the house, Mr. Jacob Obara. So I also quickly want to talk about this. We are gradually moving towards the end of the training because this is week 3, the third week. So we have like 3 weeks to go. And the last week, which is 6th week, is where we are going to be experiencing the field practicals. So all of this knowledge you are gathering now, learning in this online facilitation section about drone operation, fly responsibly, take charge, be cautious about your environment, be watchful of obstacle hindrances and things happening there. Yeah, so it will really be applicable in the practical field um, in the week C. So, and the practical section is going to be coming up on the 26th of November. It's going to span across 3 days, 26, 27, and 28. So if you have not secured your spot or do the necessary thing for you to fall into the practical options, yeah, do well to reach out to me so I can guide you through on what you really need to do. And for people who are going to be coming in from far distance or looking into helping you get accommodation on information around accommodation so that it can really help your planning. So the practical is coming up on the 26th, 27th, and 28th at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, that's FUNAB. It's an agriculture school. So do well to put that in mind. I'm still going to drop information on the group as well, and also for the feedback, because we discovered that most of the participants you've not really been turning in to give in your feedback. We so much need this information from you. So it's not going to take much of your time. It's just something that you can do in just your 5 minutes time. You are done with the feedback. Just want to get to know, or you share your honest opinion to us about this program, because this is going to really help us to be able to do well going forward. If there are things we really need to upgrade, improve on, change, and all of these things. So it's through your feedback that we can really be able to do this. So, and we are looking forward to hearing from you. I'm still going to drop the feedback link again to the group. So ensure you put in your input if you have not done that. All right, thank you very much for joining, and we'll meet tomorrow. So communicate that to the group. Mr. Obara, thank you so much for coming, sir. We sincerely want to express our unreserved appreciation. Thank you. Bye for now.